Greetings, my name is Sergey Kravets and I'm a safety and wilderness survival instructor at KL Survival. Welcome to our episode on survival kits. Today we'll talk about what a survival kit is, why you might need one, and how to put one together based on who you are, a tourist, an adventurer, or a survivalist. But first of all, the list is not definitive. It's simply a demonstration of what a survival kit can look like. Your kit may be different, and that's perfectly fine. Survival is all about managing resources and assessing risks. Your specific needs will depend on the kinds of risks you're likely to face, and your kit should reflect that. The second point is that we won't be discussing first aid kits or repair kits in this video, as that's beyond the scope of our current focus. Just so, a survival kit is a basic set of gear designed to help overcome emergency situations. In this case, we're starting with the perspective of a tourist. We assume that the tourist is part of a group and his group is following established hiking trails. Also, we expect that most of the tourist's needs are already covered by their general gear. With that in mind, I've put together the following survival kit. At the top of the list is a membrane water filter. That's because a membrane filter lets you turn almost any puddle into drinkable water. Open it, fill it up, seal it, and squeeze the water wherever you need it. And I want to highlight something important for tourists. This is the most convenient filter I've come across. Why? Because it comes with a silicone bag. You can squeeze water out for someone else or store clean water for yourself. It's far more practical than a simple drinking straw filter. And keep in mind, clean water isn't just about drinking. It's also about rinsing out your eyes, cleaning wounds, or even washing yourself if needed. Because hygiene matters. It's not just about staying clean. It affects how you feel, how clearly you think, and whether you end up with inflammation in places you'd really rather not. That's why the second item on the list is foaming wipes. These wipes require only a tiny amount of water to work effectively. You can even wipe the wipe on damp grass or just spit on it. It starts to foam up, and that foam is enough to clean your whole body. It will remove all the dust, dirt, and grime you've gathered throughout the day, and then you can dry off with the dry part of the wipe. Here it is repackaged. I personally use shower packs, but it can be any kind. This wipe doesn't leave any scent, it's hypoallergenic and won't cause itching even if you didn't clean perfectly in some spots. There's no risk of irritation. The next item is toilet paper. Yes, not exactly a Rambo-style gear list today, but oh well. We're not going to talk about slaying bears with bare hands here. We're going to talk about the fact that when you need to go to the toilet, it's not really optional. Sooner or later, you're going to have to do it. And the question is, what will you use to clean yourself? Wiping with a burdock leaf is a questionable idea, and it's not like you've always have one handy. This is what I carry in my emergency kit. Notice that it's vacuum sealed. I highly recommend getting a household vacuum sealer. It'll change your life, no exaggeration. Next up is a space blanket, also known as an emergency blanket or rescue blanket. It's basically a sheet of polyethylene about 1.5 by 2 meters with a reflective silver coating. That silver coating is designed to reflect your own body heat back at you, so in cases of hypothermia, frostbite risk, or even just a cold night, you can wrap yourself in it and stay warm until your body stabilizes. It can also be used as an emergency tarp or a makeshift rain cover. You can also tear the blanket into strips and hang them on trees to mark your path or signal rescuers. It can even be used as a heat reflector to bounce campfire warmth back toward you. But keep in mind, you should not sleep inside it. All the moisture your body gives off will collect on the inside of this blanket. Sitting wrapped in it for a few hours while you wait for help, yes. Sleeping in it, nope. Your skin will get clammy, your clothes will get damp, and you'll end up cold and possibly sick. Next item, chemical heat packs. It doesn't have to be this brand. This is just the one I happen to have. These are small pads you can place under your clothes, in your shoes, or under your emergency blanket. They generate heat to help keep you warm. Depending on the brand, design, and weather conditions, you can expect anywhere from 4 to 12 hours of warmth. Be aware, in extreme cold, they may not activate properly. If the packaging is damaged or opened early, they'll start heating sooner than expected, so plan accordingly. The next item is a signal flare. This is the simplest launch mechanism out there, and it's not just simple in terms of construction. There's nothing to break. It's also simple to use. It's foolproof. Even a child could figure it out. I'm not sure everyone needs to carry a signal flare, by the way, but for those who venture far off the beaten path or travel in dangerous areas, it can be extremely useful. That said, when we talk about signal devices, flares, whistles, any kind of emergency signal, we have to assume there's someone nearby to see or hear it. Someone who's looking, someone who's expecting to notice a signal. A flare by itself means nothing. Just because someone might see it doesn't mean they'll come to help. Use it only when you're reasonably sure that rescuers are nearby and actively searching for you. Only then does it make sense. Next up, a charging device, something a lot of people overlook. I carry one not just because I can charge my battery, but because it can discharge as well. That gives me roughly 1.5 extra phone charges in an emergency, and that's a big deal. Your phone is the single most important piece of gear you carry, more important than anything else. Next, we have a signal tape. It comes in all shapes and sizes, but honestly, for hikers, I would actually recommend something like a high-visibility cycling vest. You can use it to mark yourself if you're injured, to flag your backpack, to identify your campsite, your water source, whatever you need, but some kind of marking tool is a must. Whistles. A whistle is an essential tool for calling for help or drawing attention to yourself, especially if you lost your voice, are injured, or exhausted. A whistle can be heard from much farther away than a human voice. Sewing kit. I put special emphasis on this and a tourist survival kit because a tourist relies heavily on their gear. Unlike an adventurer who might be able to improvise equipment or a survivalist who travels without much gear at all, the tourist is dependent on what they carry. If your sleeping bag tears or your jacket zipper breaks, you'll be exposed to the elements, and if you don't have a basic sewing kit, you have no way to fix it. Spare batteries. Light matters. While you should never move around in the dark, that's a hard rule in outdoor tourism. If you must or if you need to help someone or signal your location at night, you need to be absolutely sure you have working light sources. That means backup batteries or emergency power. This is what I carry with me every day. This vacuum sealed is what I keep in my emergency kit. Seriously, get yourself a vacuum sealer. It's freaking gold. Solid fuel tablets, hexamen. I'll mention this in every kit. Solid fuel is non-negotiable. It is your must-have. When solid fuel, you can boil water because we never drink untreated water. You either use a membrane filter, chemical purifiers like chlorine tablets, or you boil it. And for boiling, solid fuel is key. You can also use it to start a fire, even in the rain. Drop in a few tablets, use your knife to prep some good dry wood, and you've got fire. It's a fire-starting booster, and every survival kit needs it. Next, lighter. Also sealed, untouched. Could you light a fire with friction or sparks from a knife? Sure, in theory. But in reality, you won't have the time, energy, or opportunity to learn that on the spot. You need a lighter, especially if you're not a smoker. If you don't smoke, you probably don't carry a lighter every day, and you're not used to having one in your pocket. That makes it easy to forget. So stash them everywhere, in your backpacks, in your first aid kits, in your jacket pockets. Fire means warmth. Water, food, light, protection from wild animals, a signal for rescue, you name it. And without a lighter, you're going to struggle. And finally, the knife. A knife is the claw that evolution took away from us. If a wild animal can make shelter, hunt, or care for itself using claws, we need a tool to do the same. And that tool is a knife. You must carry a knife. It's essential. This particular knife is made by BPS Knives. The model is called Finlight. Its main advantage is that it's compact. Most of the time, a tourist doesn't need a large knife. You'll probably use it to open a box of freeze-dried meals, slice a bit of sausage, cut some thread, not much more than that, so it makes sense to carry a small blade. This knife is compact, very lightweight, yet it's still a full-tank design. That means the blade runs all the way through the handle, making it suitable for heavier tasks like breaking branches, harvesting resin, and so on. It's reliable, but still incredibly light. It also features a Scandi grind, which makes it excellent for woodworking. So that's the kit for a tourist. Now let's move to the kit for an adventurer. An adventurer is someone who usually travels alone and often doesn't even know for sure where they'll be sleeping that night. This lifestyle relies heavily on improvisation and a bit of luck. There's a certain romance to it, but it also comes with a whole new level of risk and a very different set of consequences when things go wrong. So the way you build a survival kit for an adventurer has to be different. Let's start with the flare launcher. For a tourist, it's more of a nice extra, but for an adventurer, it's necessity. That's because adventurers travel off-trail and often camp in places that rescuers would never think to check. So a flare might be the only way to make yourself visible if something goes wrong. Mobile phone. In a tourist group, you'll likely have 5, maybe 10 phones between everyone. But an adventurer, you've only got the one, so it's a very good idea to have a backup for this fragile but essential piece of equipment. Whistle, signal tape, lighter, and minicord, all must-haves. Minicord is incredibly versatile. You can use it to create tools, fix gear, or craft makeshift household items. Inside the minicord, you'll find a nylon thread. That thread can be pulled out and used to sew up boots, a backpack, or torn gear. Very handy. For reference, minicord has 1 nylon thread, while paracord contains 7. Fuel lighter. You don't need to carry a fuel lighter specifically, but I like it because it integrates well with a catalytic hand warmer. In my opinion, catalytic warmers are a better fit for adventurers than chemical heat packs. You'll probably need it more often, and it provides heat for longer, up to 24 hours on a full tank. Once the fuel runs out, just remove the catalyst, refill, and relight it. That's why I carry a small fuel capsule, which can also be used to refill the lighter. And finally, a glow stick. Use signal tape to mark injured people, your camp, gear, whatever is needed. Foaming wipes, solid fuel tablets, spare batteries, toilet paper, phone charger, membrane water filter. This one is different from the earlier model. You can dip it straight into a puddle and drink directly through it. Downsides, it clogs fairly quickly. So if the water is too muddy, you can cover the intake with a piece of cloth and drink through that. It'll help the filter last longer. A reliable knife is essential, something you can use to repair, build, harvest. So this is your claw. Metal container. Not officially part of an emergency kit, but definitely worth replacing your water bottle with a metal cup or canteen. Why? Because you can boil water right in it. If you need to purify water immediately, just place the metal cup directly into the fire, bring the water to a boil, let it cool, and it's safe to drink. And then there's this item, a fabric-based alternative to a space blanket known as a thermal shell. Unlike foil blankets, which are essentially plastic sheets and trap moisture inside, the thermal shell is breathable and you can actually sleep in it. You can wrap yourself in, stuff it under your clothes, even walk while wrapped in it. It's great for warming a child or using a reflective heat screen. In a pinch, it does everything the foil blanket does, but more comfortably. For an adventurer, the thermal shell is worth its weight in gold. Personally, I love it. I don't leave home without it, even if I'm just heading into the city. You're sitting at a bus stop and the cold sets in. Wrap up. Need to spend a night in the unusual place? Wrap up. Simple as that. Next, the saw blade. This one is by Baco. I've tested a bunch of different brands and Baco turned out to be the best, most reliable, most convenient. Not a paid promo, but it could be. It has steel loops at both ends, so you can quickly turn it into a bow saw. Super useful for processing wood fast, whether you're making shelter, cutting poles, or gathering a large pile of firewood. It's light, thin, and I keep it in a little sleeve that slides right behind the back panel of my backpack. So it's always with me. I know that in an emergency, I can make a working saw in 10 minutes, and that'll save me a lot of time. A survivalist is someone who intentionally simulates extreme situations. Their kit overlaps almost entirely with the adventurers, but there are some key differences, and we'll focus on those. So, let's start with the fire. When we are talking about survival scenarios, we're usually talking about the worst conditions. Everything's wet and nothing's cooperating. So it makes sense to upgrade your fire starting options. Add a ferro rod, firesteel. This tool will let you spark a fire even if everything around you is soaked. It also makes sense to include a small metal tin, something you can use for char making. Inside, you pack cotton pads or other tinder. Once processed, the charred material inside will catch a spark from the ferro rod instantly. Even the tiniest spark will ignite it. The tin is almost there to protect your solid fuel tablets, so they don't crumble into useless powder. That said, solid fuel itself is a must, and so are stormproof matches. These survival matches will keep burning even underwater. Seriously, you can light one, dip it in water and it'll keep going. That's because all the combustion chemicals are built right into the matchstick. That gives you nearly guaranteed way to start a fire in any condition. And once you've got your fire going, you can use it to create char material, which in turn makes it even easier to start your next fire later on. It also includes a somewhat unusual tool in my Survivalist kit. I'm sure it has an official name, but we call it a goat udder. It's actually a World War I era field filter, and it looks like a giant sock. The idea is simple. You fill it with water and the entire fabric body slowly filters it. It won't give you drinkable water, but it will turn murky, muddy water into less murky water. When we're talking about survivalists, we're talking about people operating in conditions where clean water is rare and nothing comes easy. So it makes sense to have a pre-filter that lets you clean up large volumes of dirty water before running them through your membrane filter. That way, your main filter lasts longer and works better. And finally, I'd add a radio to the Survivalist kit alongside your backup phone, because if you're in the mountains or truly remote areas, there's a good chance your phone signal won't work. A compact handheld radio can still be your line to the outside world when everything else fades. A radio also gives you an additional way to stay in touch with your team, with people back home, or with rescuers. That's why I always recommend when registering your route with rescue services, make sure to include the frequencies you'll be monitoring. It could make all the difference. And of course, you need a reliable knife, something you can use to start a fire, build shelter, craft tools or gear. It's your claw, your one essential tool.
Отже, резюмую.
So my final thoughts. A survival kit is not about brands. It's not about following some ultimate checklist. It's all about risk analysis. You know where you're going. You know what you're likely to face. You know the nature of your trip. So you decide what gear makes sense to carry. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourself and take care of the wild. See you next time.
Зустрінемось, коли побачимось.